manuscript that we just got accepted is about subjective time. And so we found this bias that we call the egocentric temporal order bias. There's a bias for you to perceive events that you cause differently than events that are caused externally. And so the bias that we found here was that you perceive your events as happening first. We were thinking about basketball situations and also soccer when two people hit the ball at around the same time, the ball goes out, and then there's sometimes a lot of hostility between players about exactly what happened. On one hand, you could say that they're probably just like lying to their own agenda so that they get the point, they get the ball. But on the other hand, you might consider that there's actually a subjective difference in how they perceive the timing of these two events. And so that's what we tried to investigate. We wanted to get as close to the real world situation as possible while also excluding as many other factors that might influence it. Two people sat across from a table from one another with a divider between them. So they couldn't see each other, they weren't allowed to communicate, and they had a light cue that was synchronized, so it would flash at the same time for both of them. And then when that light flashed, they would tap the other person on the hand, and then they would both make a temporal order judgment of basically who touched who first. And so this judgment was made on a game controller, so they couldn't see or hear any difference between how the other person responded, and they weren't given any feedback. We had participants make 50 of these judgments, and we found a very strong bias for them to believe that they touched first. And the actual perceptual delay seems to be about 50 milliseconds from the model that we used. In a more serious kind of consequence of this, you can imagine a driving situation that a car stops suddenly in front of you. And if there is this 50 millisecond perceptual delay between experiencing external events that you weren't expecting, this can actually be pretty catastrophic if you're driving at highway speeds.